the body of a young man is hidden deep in the woods with little trace of his killer.
No blood, no prints, no indication of anything.
Whose wrong side did he get on?
The search for his killer reveals a laundry list of potential suspects.
Yeah. I swear, I didn't even touch the guy.
It seems very possible it could have been a revenge killing.
But who really wanted the victim dead?
Whoever did this is incredibly violent and incredibly dangerous.
I ain't playing. Come back here and kill you too.
Sheriff's Office of the Ward, come to the door.
Go, 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 go.
Step out of the car! Out of the car!
Emotion is the driving force behind violent crime. Emotion doesn't consider consequences. It doesn't consider judgment. It's just emotion. If your behavior causes emotion to rise to a critical level, you are at personal risk.
It's a beautiful afternoon, and Dana Marchetti and her brother Paul are taking full advantage with a hike off Rampart Range Road, just outside the city of Colorado Springs.
Rampart Range Road was a really nice place. You're out in the woods, you can go and look at the views and stuff like that. If you went to the north, you could go up towards a whole bunch of hiking, and then if you kind of went down towards Rampart Range Reservoir, you could ride bikes there, and that road would take you all the way down into Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. It kind of centers Pikes Peak, you know, like you would see in a picture frame almost. It's just right there, and it feels very close because of the angle. It's just a really nice place to view the mountain.
It's amazing out here.
Wait until you see Pikes Peak.
My sister Dana lived here, and we came down for a visit. First time I've been in Colorado Springs in my life. We just had a baby about 7 months ago, and we thought we'd bring the new fam down and see the sights in Colorado Springs because we'd never been here, so that's what we were doing here. It seemed like a nice day to go do something, so we decided on a drive. Dana suggested Rampart Range Road. There was a couple of overlooks that we could stop at and see Pikes Peak and just sort of kind of get a feel for things, especially in an area we'd never been to. And Pikes Peak is, you know, it's pretty spectacular, so it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Dana, come here.
What?
What is that?
I looked over and
Oh my God.
I was like, wow, whoa.
We need to call someone.
In my mind, there wasn't any doubt. As I approached the retaining wall, took in Pikes Peak, and then looked, there was what appeared to be an African-American. Hands were behind his back, bound with a belt, and he had a T-shirt bag or a Walmart bag over his head. And he looked a little bit inflated, almost like it was a doll or something. And that's when I turned and said to Dana, hey, come over here. It was a little bit surreal. You know, here you are in a nice mountain setting, and you're supposed to be seeing all things beautiful, and here is this sort of anomaly in the middle of everything that's out of place.
Let's go.
We had a dead body in front of us. It's a memory that's etched in my brain. That's one of those things I'll never forget.
Within the hour, investigators from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office are on the scene.
Dispatch, it's an I-7.
1490, Roger.
Afternoon, Detective Hatch.
Hey, Jeff, you first on scene?
Yes, sir.
Murders occur sometimes very close to the city-county line. This particular case, there was no doubt. It is well outside of the city limits of Colorado Springs. It falls in the jurisdiction of the El Paso County Sheriff's Department.
All right, what are we looking at?
A couple people found a body at the bottom of the embankment over here.
Maybe a hiker took a spill?
I don't think so. You'll see when we get over there. Coroner's here already.
All right, well, let's take a look.
I know Detective Hatch fairly well. He was a good detective. He was dogged. He would stay on something.
Detective Hatch makes his way down the embankment carefully so he can closely examine the remains.
Hey, guys. Good God.
He's quite disturbed by what he sees.
A black male, a plastic sack taped at the neck. There was a blue blanket partially wrapped around him. His wrists were bound behind him and some sort of strap around his ankles.
Definitely not a fallen hiker. Any idea how long this guy's been down here, Bowerman?
The body is pretty swollen, but I'm not seeing a lot of skin discoloration. Less than 24 hours.
How about what killed him?
No obvious wounds, but we're waiting to see what's under this bag.
It was apparent that this person had been brutally beaten. His face was swollen beyond identification.
Any wallet or other ID lying around?
Negative, no clothes, nothing.
Did you see any footprints when you first came in the area, Jeff?
No, no blood, no prints, no indication of anything.
Now, it's apparent this did not happen at this location. This is a disposal site of human remains.
Okay, well, let's continue to scan the area for evidence. In the meantime, I want to take a look up there.
So detectives started walking up towards the top of the overlook.
Are you seeing anything? Hey, wait a minute. Check that out.
Drag marks.
Yep.
My initial assumption was this is its appearance of a body being dragged and the heels dragging on the ground.
Look familiar?
They noticed little pieces of this blue Afghan blanket that was found wrapped around the body.
Looks like you got your hands full with this one.
Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere unless we ID this guy.
The first step in any murder case is who got murdered. That gives you a place to begin.
I think I'm going to need a little help on this one.
Yeah, just keep me in the loop once the guy's booked. Okay, thanks.
In 1996, I had spent 23 years and change on the police department, which equates to 106 years of doing anything else. And I was thinking I was eligible to retire the coming August. My wife had been pestering me at great length about her unhappiness with me still doing what I'm doing. On call, never home, working all the time. She'd had enough, and I knew that. And I was guilty of that because I did know it. But I was really thinking about not continuing past August of that year. I hadn't made the decision, but I was getting close.
It's Kenda.
Hey, Joe, Rich Hatch from the sheriff's office. How are you?
Hey, Rich. I'm all right.
So the sheriff's detectives contact me directly and say, are we missing a black male, approximately 20 years old? They do so because we carry most of the missing persons reports in the jurisdiction.
Do you have the victim's fingerprints?
Yeah. You think you can have you guys run them for me?
I'll have the lab make it a priority.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that.
While Kenda does his part to help, Detective Hatch hopes the autopsy will reveal more clues about the victim's cause of death.
Once I got the blood cleaned off of him, I had a better sense of these injuries. The beating was more vicious than I thought.
Under crime scene conditions, with dirt and poor light and all the things that accompany looking at someone in the wild who's been killed and thrown off an embankment, you're unable to see a great deal. But put him in a morgue, remove the bindings, they can see external damage to the body that was not seen at the scene.
The victim had suffered numerous skull fractures and lacerations around the head and the face area. The coroner ruled that these injuries were caused by some type of blunt force object.
Any idea what the instrument was?
No, it could be a number of things, but whatever it was about a ½ inch in diameter. It did severe damage.
He was hit with great force and further had a series of subdural hematomas to the brain, which caused his death.
His neck seems to be pretty bruised as well. Any evidence of strangulation?
Oh, yeah. The hyoid bone's completely crushed, but the strangulation occurred after death.
Whoever did this is incredibly violent and incredibly dangerous. There's an enormous amount of overkill. There is a rage factor when you beat someone so severely that they die. Your intent is not just to kill them, but to punish them.
With the cause of death confirmed, Detective Hatch checks in on Kenda's progress.
Hey, Joe. Any luck on that missing persons?
Unfortunately not. However, we did get a hit on the print.
We determined that the victim is 21 years of age, and his name is Derek James.
You look him up?
Yeah, check this out.
Wow.
When the victim, Derek, was identified through the database, it also revealed that he had an extensive criminal history.
Criminal trespassing, aggravated theft, breaking and entering, violation of probation, the list goes on.
Looks like he got out of prison pretty recently.
He's only been out of the penitentiary for 60 days, and it wasn't his first hit. This kid's been around the block at age 21.
I'm sure he hung around with a pretty tough crowd.
There's an old expression, if you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. And maybe there's a flea who decides that Derek needs to go away. We are assisting the Sheriff's Department in an investigation of a disposed homicide victim found over an overlook on the Rampart Range Road. We've identified him as Derek James. In our records, we discover someone listed as a foster father whose name is Jimmy Ayers, and he lives in the city of Colorado Springs.
Excuse me, I'm looking for Jimmy Ayers.
Well, you're in luck. You found him. What can I do for you?
Jimmy Ayers is Derek's legal foster parent, and that is a really noble position because you understand that this young person doesn't have anybody else.
I'm Detective Hatch from the Sheriff's Office. Do you know a Derek James?
Yeah, I'm his foster father. What do you do now?
They need somebody to guide them and to mentor them and kind of help them through life because they don't have anybody else to depend on.
Is there someone we can talk?
Yeah.
Mr. Ayers, I'm afraid I have some bad news. I'm sorry to say Derek is dead.
What?
Mr. Ayers is shocked by this information.
We found his body out on Rampart Range Road.
I'll be damned. I really thought that boy was heading down the right path this time.
Jimmy Ayers really thought Derek was turning his life around, and so it was extra sad for him to find out that he had been murdered this way.
Mr. Ayers, how long have you been his foster parent?
Since junior high.
Derek's mother had actually died in prison, and his father was in prison. I think it might be difficult for some people who have had a stable life to really understand what it means to be a young person and have to move from house to house, never knowing who you were going to live with, foster family to foster family. You have no roots. You have no stability in your life where you have people you can really count on. And so you could see where you might turn to a life of crime or get involved in drugs or hang around people that, you know, probably aren't the best people to be hanging around with. And because he really didn't have any parents or family, he finally became a ward of the state in Colorado.
The boy had a tough go at it. In and out of prison. But I really thought he was committed to changing his life this time.
Derek was trying to turn his life around and had enrolled in a program that helped mentor young offenders to try to not make the same mistakes that he did.
When's the last time you saw Derek?
DJ. Everyone calls him DJ.
DJ.
It was a couple of days ago. He came by, I fed him, and we talked about him getting a job. He left the next day, saying he was going to his girlfriend's house.
And I haven't seen him since.
Girlfriend, what's her name?
I really don't know. It's hard to keep up with all the girlfriends he has.
One of the things that Jimmy says about Derek is that he knows how to turn the charm on, always has a girlfriend or two.
Perhaps one of these girlfriends would know what happened to him or whose wrong side did he get on.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Ayers, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So the next best thing to do is to find out who is the most recent girlfriend of DJ.
But before Detective Hatch can dig any deeper into Derek James's personal life, he's hit with some interesting news.
Detective Hatch.
What's up, Tina?
A girl just dropped by, wanting to talk about that murder up on Rampart Range Road.
Really? She's still here?
Yeah, she's waiting for you in the conference room.
Thanks.
This woman says her street name is Bambi and that she knows DJ and she knows who killed him. Well, that's pretty significant.
I understand you may have some information about what happened with Derek James.
Yeah.
Are you his girlfriend?
No, but we've been friends for a long time. And I know the guy he was recently beefing with.
Bambi told investigators that after he got out of prison on this last stint, he had a run-in with an old acquaintance.
His name is Sam Fuller. Everybody call him Trip.
Bambi advised that at one time, Derek and Trip had been pretty good friends.
And what happened between DJ and Trip?
She says they got into it over the affections of a girl. And that is a very common motive in murder.
Do you know where Trip lives?
Yeah, but you can't tell him I told you anything. I don't want to get killed.
It's okay. You have my word.
With a new lead to pursue, Detective Hatch heads to the home of Sam Fuller, a.k.a. Trip.
Yeah. Mr. Fuller, we're detectives from the sheriff's office. You mind stepping out in the hall?
So what exactly do you guys want?
He's perplexed. Why are the police at my house? I've done nothing wrong.
Mr. Fuller, we're here to talk about Derek James.
DJ? I haven't seen that boy in a minute.
Well, that's not what we heard.
What you mean?
Trip, do you know how Derek James ended up dead?
Dead? You saying somebody killed him? What happened?
Trip was quite surprised at that. The emotion was genuine. You could tell that he really did not know that Derek had been killed.
He says to the sheriff's detectives, I don't know why my name came up in this.
But when you haven't seen somebody for a long time and all of a sudden police are asking you about his murder, you'd be like, wait a minute, how'd they get my name? How are they figuring that I'm involved? Is somebody trying to set me up for this?
So you're saying you and DJ did not have an issue over a girl?
Nah, man, we used to go running together and chase the same girls or whatever, but I don't hang with those people no more.
He admits they've been in and out of jail together on a number of occasions, but in the recent past, Sam Fuller straightened out his life, and he said, I don't do that anymore.
Okay. You have any kind of alibi for the last few days?
Yeah, I sure do. I've been working. You can call my boss.
You want to check on that?
Can I use the phone in here?
Yeah.
Okay, Trip. I know you said you haven't seen DJ in a while, but do you know if he had any girlfriends?
Girlfriends? DJ was a dog, man. But last I heard, he was seeing this one girl.
He said, somebody told me that his main squeeze these days is a female named Sheila Barnhart.
Sheila Barnhart. Any idea where she lives?
Nah, man, I never met her before.
All checks out.
So they dismiss Mr. Fuller and assume that Bambi is telling a tale. There is a significant number of people who live in the criminal subculture who see Crime Stoppers as a piggy bank. Let's make a phone call, maybe they'll give us $20. In their minds, the police will pay for information. That is true, to an extent that's true, but only for the best information. That's what leads to arrest and conviction. We don't pay for rumors. We don't pay for your opinion. We pay for something when it works, and not until it works.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Appreciate your time.
So their focus now is on Sheila Barnhart. Who is she, and what does she know?
Detective Hatch and his partner waste little time tracking down an address.
Can I help you?
When this woman answers the door, she's wearing rubber cleaning gloves, and she is perspiring.
Excuse me, ma'am. We're looking for Sheila Barnhart.
They get the deer in headlights look from her, and she stammers and says, well...
Sheila, she's not here. I'm her sister, Stephanie.
And they look over her shoulder, and this apartment is filled with cleaning products.
What are you doing in there, Stephanie?
Just cleaning.
Yeah, I can see that. You missed a spot?
Well, my. Blood spatter on the ceiling only gets her one way. Cast off from a blood instrument. What's been happening in here? Did Derek James happen in here? The Sheriff's Department's investigating the brutal death of Derek James. They're in an apartment that's supposed to contain his most recent girlfriend, Sheila Barnhart, but they find her sister, Stephanie, cleaning up what appears to be a crime scene.
From what the investigators were able to observe just from the front door, that gave them probable cause to ask for a warrant for the search of this house.
Officer, check under that carpet.
When people try to clean up bloodstains, a lot of times they'll use bleach. But you pull the carpet up, the blood is still underneath the carpet on the floor.
You come get this. There. Luminol ready yet?
Give me just a second.
Luminol is a chemical that causes human blood to fluoresce. It will even cause invisible to the human eye blood to fluoresce.
All right, Luminol's ready.
Okay, kill the lights, please.
This apartment glows in the dark. This place is covered in blood.
You could see the efforts of where it had tried to be cleaned up, but it was just so much that that wasn't working.
I found this on the couch.
Well, I'll be damned.
CSI had located some pieces of fuzzy blue material which matched the blue Afghan that was found on the victim's body.
You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to realize that this is where Derek James met his untimely demise. So Stephanie's in this up to her neck.
Okay, Stephanie, it's time for you to tell me what the hell is going on here.
I don't actually know.
Then why are you cleaning up a crime scene?
So last night, my sister Sheila called me and she's freaking out, said something had happened to DJ and begged me to come over.
Was DJ here when you arrived?
No, but there was blood all over the couch.
She was shocked at how much blood there was. And she said Sheila looked emotionally distraught to the maximum.
Did Sheila tell you what happened to DJ?
She just said something bad.
Well, something bad did happen to DJ, Stephanie, because DJ happens to be very dead right now.
I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to know.
Where is Sheila now?
I couldn't get her to calm down, so I sent her back to my place. I told her I'd meet her there when I was finished.
Okay, Stephanie, we're gonna have to put you under arrest.
What? No, I didn't do anything. I was just trying to help.
And that makes you an accessory to murder.
No,
Officer.
One of the elements of being an accessory is the attempt to destroy or conceal evidence. And Stephanie is in the process of doing precisely that.
After Stephanie is booked on accessory charges, investigators set their sights on her sister, Sheila.
The sheriff's department goes to Stephanie's apartment, and as advertised, Sheila Barnhart is present. She's placed in custody because Sheila has a few things to explain, not the least of which is a dead guy on her sofa.
Okay, Sheila. This is your chance to come clean about whatever happened at your place the other night.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, let me catch you up to speed. There's mountains of blood evidence all over your home suggesting that you and your sister killed Derek James.
That isn't what happened. I didn't kill DJ.
Okay. Then who did?
I don't know. But I can explain.
Then start explaining, Sheila, because you kind of need to explain.
So the other night, I got this phone call. Hello?
You tell your punk boyfriend to pay me what he owes. He ain't gonna like what happens if I got to come over there and collect it myself.
Who is this? Hello? Hello?
And she's obviously very scared and concerned. Is her life in danger? Are they really going to come over here?
Sheila, don't worry about it. It's nothing.
DJ, this guy sounded serious. I don't think he's messing around.
It's nothing. Trust me.
I just don't want anything to happen to you.
I know, but it's fine. Promise. I know. Don't wait up for me, all right? We'll be back later.
Okay. I believed him. But later that night, I heard this shouting downstairs. DJ?
Huh?
Look, man, I don't have it just yet, but I will soon.
No, man, we done waiting.
She says she sees a black male and a Hispanic male circling DJ, yelling about the money he owes them.
DJ?
Baby, go back to bed.
You better make yourself disappear.
What if she calls the cops?
We ain't calling no cops. If we do, we'll come back here and kill you too. And I ain't playing.
So I went back to my room, and I heard all these loud noises.
Like a fight?
Yeah. I could hear DJ begging them to stop. And then all of a sudden, the front door slammed.
She comes out of her bedroom, goes downstairs, DJ is gone, and there's blood everywhere.
Well, why didn't you call the police?
Because I was afraid. They said they were gonna kill me. I didn't know what to do.
Investigators are a bit skeptical of Sheila's story, but she's coming off as somewhat genuine. So they can't ignore the mention of these two new potential suspects.
Sheila, do you think that you can describe the men that you saw?
I can try.
She's asked to get with one of our lab techs to try to recreate a mugshot of these two people.
Like this? No, the eyebrows were definitely thicker than that.
Years earlier, they would use an artist to do this, but now there are a number of programs, and you literally assemble it on a computer screen.
Yeah, those lips look great.
You have hundreds and hundreds of possibilities, and you just keep trying until you get closer and closer and closer.
So you're positive this is what the guys who killed DJ look like?
I think so.
They have to pursue what she says because she's said it. Once the cat's out of the bag, you have an obligation to pursue it.
As the legitimacy of Sheila's lead is tested, the investigation continues to gain traction from an unexpected source.
Miss Kenda.
Lieutenant, there's a woman on the phone here. Sounds like she might have some info on that murder the sheriff's office is working.
Really? Okay, put her through.
Hello?
This is Lieutenant Kenda. Who am I speaking with?
I don't want to tell you my name.
So she gets on the phone. She's very frightened, and her voice is shaky.
But I think my neighbor might be involved in that murder up on Rampart Range.
And why is that?
Well, he was packing up his stuff this morning, and he said he needed to leave town because he did something bad.
And what's your neighbor's name?
Brandon Barnhart.
Brandon Barnhart.
And that name hit me right between the eyes.
You know if he's related to Sheila Barnhart?
Yeah. Sheila's his sister.
So Brandon says he's done something bad. Oh, it was more than bad, Brandon. It was brutal. And you made the mistake of doing it in your sister's apartment. The caller provides the address where she last saw him packing his things. We go to that address to pick him up on behalf of the sheriff's department.
Sheriff's office of the warrant, come to the door. Hands. Show us your hands when you step out. Slowly open the door. Step out slowly. Hands. Keep coming. Keep coming. Step all the way out to my partner.
You looking for Brandon?
Yeah, is he here?
No, you just missed him.
And you are?
His mother?
Is there somewhere we could talk?
She says, I've been expecting the police to come by. The family is the people who are in possession of intimate knowledge of the missing person.
Come on.
Friends don't know what people do. Families know. I have gone to mothers of murder suspects on a number of occasions. There's no stronger bond than motherhood.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Mothers love their children no matter what they've done. They want to protect them as best they can. And if you present the facts to them in a reasonable way and explain to them that you have no intention of bringing harm to their child, they respond to that. They don't want their child to be hurt.
I don't know what's going on, but Brandon was acting real strange this morning. He seemed like he'd gotten himself into some trouble.
She said that Brandon shows up and he's all upset and being pretty evasive and keeps telling her he's sorry, and she's wondering, what are you sorry for?
She said he needed to leave town for a while. Didn't say why. Just packed his bag and up and left.
Do you know where he was headed?
If I had to guess, I'd say Reno. We've got family out there.
So she says he probably went to Reno, Nevada, and not to California, because we have family in Reno, Nevada. People, when they run, are filled with fear. They're filled with angst. They really don't know what to do, but they can't go to strangers. So he's got to go to family, somebody who might protect him, give him a place to hide, provide him with money, provide him with clothing, provide him with what he needs to survive long enough to stay out of custody.
What is it you think my son did?
Ma'am, were you aware that your daughter's boyfriend, DJ, was murdered?
And you think Brandon did it?
There's a strong possibility.
God, no. No, that can't be possible. Not my boy.
As a parent, right away you'd be thinking, this is a big mistake. You have the wrong person. My son would never be involved in something like that.
Well, if he calls or tries to contact you at all, can you let me know?
Okay. I'm gonna try to get him on the phone, too.
Okay. Thank you.
Now the sheriff's department is convinced that Sheila lied. Her brother is in flight, and he's not Hispanic, and he's not black. So whatever she said is a lie to prevent the discovery of the truth.
Sheila, we know your brother is somehow involved in this. Now, you need to tell us the truth, because if you don't, there's a very good chance that you will go down for whatever he did.
Okay. Okay, you're right. I didn't tell you the whole story. The truth is, DJ is just like every other boyfriend I've ever had.
She goes on to say she has been a victim of abuse by boyfriends. She thought that DJ would be different.
First, he was good to me. But I became suspicious that he was seeing other girls. And when I confronted him about it the other night, he just lost it.
She said he got upset with her and backhanded her, slapped her across the face. And then he commenced to assault her.
I told myself I was never gonna let any man mistreat me ever again. And I sure as hell wasn't gonna let DJ.
So you called your brother?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Brandon, I need your help.
Why? What's wrong?
She called her brother and told him what had occurred, and he got really upset.
What? Wait, are you serious?
I have an idea of how to get him back.
So the next day, she tells her brother that she's going to poison him by baking poison muffins. Well, you look in a recipe book, Betty Crocker doesn't have anything about poison muffins, but Sheila has an idea.
I had some sleeping pills and prescription lithium that I crushed up and put into the muffin mix.
Lithium is a very powerful drug used to treat mental illness and is potentially fatal in a large amount.
Hey, babe. It smells amazing in here. Oh, you made muffins, huh?
I wanted to apologize for earlier.
Baby, you don't need to apologize. It's my fault, too.
She fed him the muffins, and sure enough, he laid down on the couch and went to sleep.
Brandon showed up with his friend Eric.
Eric who?
English. They told me to go upstairs and shut the door.
She could hear a terrible beating going on, and even heard Derek say, "Stop."
She said when all the noise stopped, she came down the stairs and saw blood everywhere.
I didn't know if DJ was dead or what. I thought Brandon was just going to beat him up. I swear.
Go ahead and stand on up.
Sheila is a typical criminal trying to distance herself from the event. She apparently, in a few minutes it took to tell this story, forgot that she tried to poison him to death. Now she wants to say she didn't participate in his murder. Excuse me?
Sheila is charged with first-degree murder, and the sheriff's department sets their sights on a newly named co-conspirator.
It's not just her and her brother anymore. It's her brother, and Eric English, whoever the hell he is.
Well, a background check's done on Eric, and it discloses that he has several warrants out for his arrest. So they find out where he's living and go to his residence.
Any eyes on the suspect? Negative. Okay, hold your positions till he comes out. Copy that.
Wait a minute. Is that him?
They see a guy matching Eric English's description pull up.
We have a suspect confirmation. All right, all units prepare to move in. Use extreme caution. Go, 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 go.
You give him no opportunity to draw a weapon, no opportunity to run. You set the tone for the impending conversation.
Eric
English! Eric English! Step out of the car!
So the choice is Eric English on how difficult he wants to make this arrest.
Hands up! Out of the car!
If he wants to cooperate and surrender, that's one thing.
Out of the car!
If he wants to resist, that's going to be the last thing he ever did. The Sheriff's Department is investigating the brutal murder of Derek James, and with our assistance have determined that Sheila Barnhart, Brandon Barnhart, and Eric English are the three people involved in this crime. And Eric English has just been spotted by police in his parking lot.
Out of the car!
Eric English is at a point of making a choice. Do you want to risk your life, or do you want to just get arrested?
Step out of the car! Hands up!
As I've often said to people, can you run 1,200 feet per second? Because this bullet can.
Out of the car! Step out of the car! Don't shoot! Put your hands up! Turn around.
What's going on? Eric English, you're under arrest for the murder of Derek James. What the hell are you talking about, man?
He's taken to the El Paso County Sheriff's Department for interrogation.
Any of these look familiar?
Yo, I don't want to see that. Damn.
Why not?
I didn't know we was gonna go that far.
That is an incriminating statement.
Who's we?
Me and Brandon.
Well, how'd you get roped into this in the first place?
That night, Brandon called me asking for a ride to his sister's place.
Eric picked him up, and when Brandon got in the car, he said, I want you to help me deal with a guy who hurt my sister.
I said, sure.
What happened when you got out to the house?
The guy was sleeping on the couch, and I thought we were gonna wake him up. All of a sudden, Brandon pulled out a pipe and started knocking the hell out of him.
Eric says Brandon just went off on him and started beating him absolutely out of control. And Eric was shocked. He didn't expect it.
I swear, I didn't even touch the guy.
Well, how'd you get DJ's body out to Rampart Range Road?
I don't know. Brandon figured all that out.
Oh, well, then I guess you won't mind if we take a look in your trunk?
I want a lawyer.
Well, you're kind of too late for that, Eric. You've already buried yourself in the middle of a murder.
Well, all right then. Good luck, Eric. You're gonna need it.
Eric is now in custody, so is Sheila, but we are still missing Brandon Barnhart. We need to find him.
Luckily for the investigation, they don't need to look too far.
All right, I'll let him know. Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm Brandon Barnhart. I'm here to turn myself in.
Really? Well, fine, we'll do that. We accept all business 24 hours a day. Now we have all the players in the hands of the Sheriff's Department.
Mr. Barnhart, I'm Detective Hatch. I understand you're ready to tell us what happened to Derek James.
I didn't mean to kill him, man.
No choice!
All right. Relax, Brandon.
Brandon is emotionally distraught. He's a perfect candidate for an interrogation.
Relax for a moment. Just tell us what happened with DJ.
Knew right from the beginning that it wasn't gonna work between him and Sheila.
What do you mean?
I've known that dude a long time.
Brandon explains that he, too, was in foster care at points in his life, just like DJ. They both wound up in group homes together, and they became friends.
And through the years, we kind of just drifted off. Stopped talking to each other as much. Kept getting into trouble, going to prison. And one day I found out he's dating my sister.
How'd you feel about that?
How do you think I felt?
He wasn't very happy about that because he knew who DJ was. Brandon even had a conversation with DJ.
I know we go way back and all, man, but I don't know about you dating my sister.
You tripping, Brand?
No, I'm not. Now promise me you're gonna treat her right.
All right, man. I promise.
So when his sister called him crying, saying that DJ beat her up, Brandon flipped a switch. He went into a blind rage.
Eric, get your ass over here now!
And all he wanted to do was get even.
So we made a plan, and I had Eric come pick me up.
Did you have some sort of weapon with you?
Yeah. Let's go.
Rebar is solid steel used in the construction of concrete, so it is, without question, a deadly weapon.
When we got there, I knew that Sheila had slipped DJ some pills. Where's he at?
He's on the couch in the living room.
Yo, DJ!
He hit him as hard and as often as he could. Eric is also participating in the attack.
I think he wants more, Bran. Kick his ass.
Come on.
And it sounds like Sheila was there, egging him on.
Sheila, get the rope.
Brandon said that Sheila got kind of a black web belt and tied it around his legs to keep him from squirming around. They then taped his hands together.
At some point, Brandon admits to putting the rebar under his chin, and he heard something snap.
They then wrapped him in a blue blanket, drug him out to Eric's car, and then they drove him up Rampart Range Road.
Get it off the hook.
They then drug him from the trunk of Eric's car over to the side of the overlook. What a brutal way to end somebody's life.
It's a savage killing by people who are unconcerned about what they're doing because they're angry. And in their mind, that makes it okay. DJ has transgressed, and they're going to punish him.
Brandon Barnhart's disturbing confession implicates not only himself, but also his sister Sheila and his friend, Eric English. All three are charged with first-degree murder for their roles in the crime.
Eric, Brandon, and Sheila all pled guilty to a reduced charge of second-degree murder. And
The night the desert swallowed her, the air over northern Nevada was unnervingly still, the kind of stillness that makes your skin tighten because you know something is coming, something you can't see yet, but can feel crawling toward you through the darkness. It began with a single set of tire tracks, cutting across a gravel turnout along State Route 447, a lonely stretch of road where headlights seem to vanish into the void, and even the wind refuses to whisper. Locals would later say they felt it immediately. Something wrong, something sour in the atmosphere. Before the story surfaced, before the headlines erupted, before the phrase, Nevada 1998 cold case, etched itself into the state's memory like a scar no one could cover. She disappeared between one heartbeat and the next, leaving behind nothing but a stalled rumor drifting through the sagebrush and a shadow that wouldn't fade for 26 long years. Her name was Allison Hartley, a 19-year-old college sophomore heading home from Reno after a weekend visiting friends. Straight-A student, quiet smile, a girl who never made waves. But sometimes the desert doesn't choose victims based on chaos. Sometimes it chooses the calm ones, the predictable ones, the ones who won't see danger until it's already standing in front of them. She left Reno at 8:43 p.m. As shown on a gas station receipt, investigators would later study under fluorescent lights like priests reading an omen. She called her mother at 9:02, said traffic was light, said she'd be home by 11. She never made it. The search began as a family worry, the kind that starts small, coiling in the gut, then tightens into panic when minutes stretch too long. By morning, her car was found abandoned on that isolated turnout. Driver's door unlocked, keys missing, a single sneaker on the passenger side floor. No footprints, no signs of a struggle. Just emptiness, carved sharp and clean, as if the desert itself had reached up and taken her without leaving a trace. Deputies walked in widening circles around the site, boots crunching over gravel, voices crackling through radios. But all they found was silence. The kind of silence that feels manufactured, like someone carefully wiped the world clean. The press seized on it, unleashing bold black letters across front pages. Mysterious disappearance stuns Nevada community. Cold case fears rise as search expands. Each headline struck like a hammer, amplifying fear, feeding speculation, turning Allison into a symbol rather than a person. Rumors twisted through neighborhoods. Strangers on the highway, wrong place, wrong time. Maybe she ran away, maybe she staged it. But the car door unlocked, and the lone sneaker crushed those theories. Something had happened. Something deliberate. Investigators combed through registration logs, gas station surveillance tapes, credit card swipes, every milepost along that bleak corridor of highway. They interviewed truckers, drifters, tourists, locals who'd been within 20 miles of the area that night. Nobody saw her. Nobody heard anything. The desert kept its secrets wrapped tight. A detective later admitted off the record that it felt like chasing a ghost through an empty world. Her family begged for answers on live television, their voices trembling, eyes hollow. Volunteers fanned out across miles of scrubland. Helicopters scanned for disturbances in the dirt. Cadaver dogs sniffed the ground as if trying to pull the story upward from the dust. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and eventually the case slid into that quiet, dreaded category. Unsolved, cold, sealed by uncertainty. The community moved on, or pretended to, but the void where Allison should have been never closed. Years passed, faces changed, detectives retired, fields yellowed, but one piece of evidence remained sealed in a narrow envelope inside a climate-controlled vault. A faint smudge lifted from the inside of Allison's car door. Not blood, not hair, just a partial DNA trace so degraded it was nearly useless. An artifact from 1998 technology, catalogued, stored, and forgotten as new cases swallowed the state's attention. For decades, it sat there like a dormant heartbeat, waiting for something the investigators of '98 couldn't imagine. But back then, in the first months after her disappearance, hope still flickered. Deputies returned to the turnout repeatedly, trying to reimagine her final moments. They traced her car's path, noting the absence of skid marks, the lack of forced entry, the eerie neatness of it all. Whatever happened had happened fast. Controlled. Clean. As if the perpetrator planned it or had done something similar before. Locals whispered about a truck seen idling near the area earlier that night, its tail lights blinking through the darkness like eyes watching, waiting. But the witness couldn't describe the driver, couldn't recall a plate, couldn't even swear the truck was there at the right time. It was just a shape on the road. A ghost. A possibility swallowed by the margins of memory. Detectives pulled receipts from every bar, motel, diner, and truck stop within a 40-mile radius. They examined handwritten ledgers, cross-referenced check-ins, reviewed hours of grainy VHS security footage where figures moved like smudges. Nothing. It was as if Allison had stepped into a crack in reality, a vanishing without logic. Her belongings were processed meticulously. Backpack zipped, wallet intact, notes from her classes folded neatly. Nothing stolen, nothing out of place, except her phone, which records indicated stayed active for 2 hours after her disappearance before going dark somewhere along the highway, pinging off a tower that serviced an area so wide investigators practically choked on frustration. If the phone had been tossed from a moving vehicle, the desert swallowed it without mercy. In the early days, investigators entertained theories they later regretted even speaking aloud. A sudden decision to leave her old life behind. A panic attack. An encounter with wildlife. A misstep leading to a fall into a ravine. Each theory dissolved under scrutiny. There were no tracks leading away from the car, no signs she wandered voluntarily, no injuries on the earth, no personal turmoil in her life. She hadn't planned an escape. She had planned to go home. As the months crept forward, Allison's story became a quiet haunting in northern Nevada. Her photo hung in post offices, supermarkets, bus stops. Her mother drove the route every week, leaving flowers near the turnout and whispering into the wind as if her daughter could hear her across the dust. Reporters tried to revive the case on slow news days, calling it Nevada's most chilling cold case. But without new evidence, the story withered. Only the family kept it alive, gripping the threads of hope even as they frayed. The desert, in its vast indifference, erased what little trace remained. Tire tracks faded. Weather peeled layers of paint from signs near the road. The turnout became just another patch of gravel no one paid attention to, unless they knew what had happened there, unless they felt the weight of it settle on their shoulders like a shadow. Yet behind closed doors at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, a few detectives refused to let the file die. One of them, Detective Raymond Cole, kept a framed map of the route pinned to his office wall. Red circles marked every point of interest. Blue pins indicated sightings. Yellow notes cluttered the edges, each handwritten in small, tight script. He revisited the case every anniversary, even when his colleagues rolled their eyes, even when superiors suggested reallocating his time. Something about the case gnawed at him, the precision, the silence, the way the evidence seemed intentionally erased. Cole once described the case as a scream swallowed by the desert. 26 years later, that scream still echoed in his mind. By the early 2000s, the case file ballooned to hundreds of pages. Interviews, photographs, sketches, maps, timelines, witness statements, false leads, anonymous tips scrawled in frantic handwriting. Some claimed to see a girl matching Allison's description in Utah. Others reported similar highway encounters, headlights flashing behind them, a figure stepping into the road, a stranger knocking on windows late at night. Most were dismissed as coincidences or fabrications, but they fed the mythos surrounding the disappearance. The story morphed into campfire lore, whispered among teens daring each other to visit the turnout after midnight. But beneath the sensationalism, a truth remained. Nobody knew what happened. The Cold Case Unit reopened the file twice, in 2008 and again in 2014, hoping advancements in technology might change the odds. Each time, the DNA trace was re-examined, but the sample was too degraded, too faint, too broken. It was like trying to rebuild a shattered fingerprint out of dust. Disappointment piled high, suffocating what hope remained. Still, the envelope stayed sealed inside its vault. Unremarkable. Unimportant. A relic from a time when DNA science was in its adolescence, barely capable of whispering answers, let alone shouting them. As the years approached the 26th anniversary, the Hartley family prepared for another solemn ritual, lighting candles, sharing stories, enduring the empty chair at the dinner table. They no longer expected miracles. They no longer expected answers. They expected silence, the same silence that had wrapped around the case from day one. But fate doesn't always move in straight lines. Sometimes it loops back, circling old wounds, digging them open with new force. And sometimes the smallest fragment, the kind stored in a forgotten envelope, can erupt into something explosive. This story begins in the desert. It begins with silence. But it will not stay silent, because in 2024, when the vault was opened for routine evidence transfer, that forgotten envelope resurfaced, and with it, the first tremor of the shock that would rattle Nevada to its core. The envelope emerged with the kind of simplicity that makes detectives nervous, the kind of simplicity that feels staged by fate or something colder. A technician slid the pale packet across a metal table during inventory, expecting nothing more than paperwork and routine signatures. But when the name Hartley Allison, 1998, surfaced in faded ink, the room shifted. Conversations paused, glances sharpened. The air thickened in that way it does when ghosts decide to move. The sample inside, barely the size of a grain of sand, had spent 26 years waiting for a world advanced enough to understand it. And now that world existed. No one knew that within hours that dust-like trace would become the spark of a story, brutal enough to fracture old assumptions and loud enough to force open doors long shut. For now it remained a quiet possibility, a pulse beneath still water. Detective Cole felt something ignite the second he held the envelope. His hands trembled, not from age, though he had more grey now than he liked to admit, but from recognition. It was the same envelope he had stared at countless times, the same envelope he had once believed would break open the desert's silence. And now, returned to the surface, it demanded attention with a force that felt supernatural. The sample was sent to the State Forensics Lab, then forwarded to a national facility specializing in ultra-degraded DNA. Machines far more sophisticated than anything available in 1998 hummed to life, coaxing the broken strands into patterns, aligning fragments like shards of shattered glass. It took hours, then days. The process was slow, delicate, maddening. But something began to form. First a partial profile, then a clearer outline, as if a face was emerging from the fog. Meanwhile, memories of Allison's case rippled back into the community like a storm surfacing from old waters. Reporters who hadn't uttered her name in years dug through archives, searching for the story that once captivated the state. Neighbors felt a pinch of dread in their gut, the kind that comes when history threatens to return with teeth. And the Hartley family, after decades of waiting, found themselves pulled back toward a grief they had never fully escaped. Still, no one imagined the twist waiting at the end of the DNA sequencing. Not yet. For now, everything moved quietly, under the hum of fluorescent lights, behind closed lab doors, inside computer servers crunching data with machine precision. It was the calm before a detonation. While scientists worked, Cole drifted back to the old case file spread across his kitchen table. He often found himself staring into the pages late at night, the glow of a single lamp outlining the mess of photographs and handwritten notes. There was the turnout, empty and bleak, captured from angles that made it look like a throat ready to swallow anything that stepped too close. There was Allison's smiling face, frozen at 19. There were the lists of suspects, some ridiculous, some hauntingly plausible, each crossed out, eliminated, discarded. But one thing always bothered him, the near-perfect silence surrounding the crime. Most disappearances leave echoes, a witness, a neighbor, a passerby, a camera, a sound, something. But Allison vanished as if pulled out of the world by an invisible hand. Clean, controlled, fast. It was too fast. Cole sat alone at his table, knuckles tight around a coffee mug gone cold, replaying every detail. Her car's location, the untouched contents, the single missing key, the phone's vanishing signal, the sneaker on the floor. Each clue was a whisper, and he was listening again, trying to hear what he had missed. The desert outside Reno had its own ways of hiding stories. Sandstorms, scavengers, time. But even nature rarely wiped a scene so completely. Someone had done this. Someone who understood the terrain, understood the timing, understood how to appear and disappear without leaving a footprint. The lab finally called on a Thursday morning at 7:14 a.m., a moment Cole would replay for the rest of his life. He answered before the second ring, heart pounding. The technician's voice was steady, clinical, unaware of the emotional weight behind the words. "We've extracted a viable profile," she said, "and it's yielding a match." Cole's breath caught. A match. After 26 years of nothing. But then her tone shifted. "The profile, it's unusual. A pause, a shuffle of papers, a soft exhale. It appears connected to an existing entry. Not a full match, but a familial link. A strong one. Familial. Cold cases rarely get that kind of luck. Cole's pulse quickened. "We're sending the full report shortly," she added. "But preliminary results indicate the relative is male, currently incarcerated, and was added to the national database less than a decade ago." The floor seemed to tilt beneath Cole's feet. A prisoner. A relative. A connection hidden in plain sight for years. He scribbled notes furiously as the technician continued, but one phrase hit him like a blunt strike. This DNA fragment, it should not exist in that car unless the perpetrator had direct contact with the interior. That was the confirmation he had waited a lifetime to hear. The evidence wasn't contamination. It wasn't accidental transfer. It was deliberate, real, the first solid thread in decades. The lab email arrived 12 minutes later, a dense stack of data charts and probability calculations that would fuel a firestorm. The familial match pointed to a man serving a sentence for a non-violent burglary in another state. His name was Darren Voss, early 30s. No known connection to Nevada. No known connection to Allison. But the DNA didn't match his fully, only partially, indicating a close relative was the source. A father, a brother, a son. Someone blood-tied to this man had been in Allison's car the night she vanished. Cole felt a chill crawl down his spine. Familial DNA was a dangerous compass. Powerful, but unpredictable. It pointed to a bloodline, not a person. It meant one thing. The perpetrator was out there, somewhere, breathing the same air as everyone else. The hunt began again. Cole and a forensic genealogist dug into the Voss family tree, tracing names, addresses, birth records, and police logs. The deeper they went, the darker the branches became. The Voss family had drifted across western states for decades, a trail of arrests, evictions, and disappearances following them like a curse. But one name stood out. One name wrapped in more shadows than the rest. Elias Voss, born 1967, former truck mechanic. No current address, multiple arrests in the 90s for minor offenses, then a sudden vanishing act from public records. No employment history after 1999, no tax filings, no forwarding address. It was as if he fell off the map the year after Allison disappeared. Cole felt electricity surge through him. Elias was the perfect age, with the perfect timeline, the perfect geographic proximity. But the file showed no convictions that would have required DNA collection, which meant his genetic fingerprint had remained hidden for nearly 3 decades. Cole stared at Elias's grainy mugshot from 1995. Cold eyes, unreadable expression, a predator's stillness. He felt an instinct claw at the back of his mind, a detective's intuition sharpened by years of dead ends. This man knew what happened. Meanwhile, whispers leaked from the lab into the newsroom, and soon the story spread like gasoline catching flame. Major break in Nevada, 1998 cold case. DNA twist sparks new investigation. Shockwaves as forgotten evidence yields match. Headlines multiplied. Phones rang non-stop. The community braced for revelations. The Hartley family collapsed under a mix of hope and dread when investigators knocked on their door again. They had learned long ago that cold case breakthroughs were rarely simple. They often brought pain before answers. Still, the possibility of truth after so many years felt like a tremor in the heart. Cole returned to the turnout that night, standing alone in the dark, listening to the hum of distant traffic echo across the plains. He imagined Allison's final moments, imagined a truck pulling up behind her, imagined a man stepping out with practiced calm. The desert wind brushed past, carrying the taste of dust and old grief. Cole whispered into the emptiness, "We're coming for you." Back at the sheriff's office, the genealogist constructed a chart sprawling 80 years of Voss family lineage. It was a spiderweb of connections, but Elias's branch glowed like a hazard sign. Every vector pointed toward him. Everything narrowed to his absence, his silence, his missing years. Still, No one knew where he was. No property records, no criminal activity, no death certificate. He was a ghost with footprints buried just deep enough to hide. But the DNA didn't lie. It had survived decades of darkness to whisper his name. Cole pursued every scrap of data: old addresses, DMV records, hospital logs, mail forwarding requests, insurance claims. Most led nowhere. But one hint emerged from a storage facility in southern Oregon, a unit leased in 2002 under a pseudonym linked to the Voss family. The payment stopped years ago. The unit sat frozen in time. Cole felt his heartbeat thundering as he stared at the facility log. He didn't know what he'd find inside, but every instinct screamed that the story was about to turn sharp. He grabbed his keys. He didn't call for backup. He wanted to be the first one there. The evening sky smeared itself into shades of rust and ink as he crossed the state line. The road stretched long and lonely ahead of him, just like the night Allison vanished. Every mile tightened a knot in his chest. He replayed the lab call, the genealogist's warnings, the way the desert had swallowed the truth for so long. When he arrived, the facility's metal doors loomed like sealed vaults guarding secrets no one wanted to hear out loud. The manager had already left the unit unlocked. "Hasn't been opened in over 20 years, he'd said on the phone. "Be careful." Cole gripped the handle. The metal was cold. He lifted the door, and the smell hit him first. Not rot, not death, something worse. A scent that didn't belong in any storage unit. A scent that told him, immediately, that this case was about to explode. The scent rising from the darkness inside the storage unit was sharp, metallic, unnervingly sterile. The smell of industrial cleaner mixed with something older, something that clung to metal shelves and cardboard corners like a memory refusing to fade. It wasn't the stench of decay. It was the stench of erasure, the scent of someone trying far too hard to scrub away a past soaked in danger. Detective Cole froze, breath locked in his chest, because whatever waited inside wasn't normal. It wasn't casual. It was careful, calculated. The air gave off the same feeling as a crime scene disguised as a workshop, the kind of place where truth had been carved out and discarded. He stepped inside slowly, flashlight slicing through dust particles that swirled like ash. The unit wasn't large, 10 feet deep, 8 feet wide, but it felt endless. Metal shelves lined the left wall, stacked with toolboxes, cans of solvent, and coiled extension cords. A tarp hung across the back like a curtain, hiding a stage no one should see. The right side held crates stamped with faded shipping labels, most smudged beyond recognition, but one word cut through the grime: fragile. A lie. Cole thought. Nothing about this place was fragile. His boots crunched on gravel scattered across the concrete floor. He moved forward inch by inch, hyper-aware of the silence pressing in from all sides. Then he noticed something that made the hairs on his arms rise. The unit wasn't dusty in the places it should have been. A thin layer coated the untouched shelves, but the center floor was swept clean, unnaturally clean, as if someone had stood there repeatedly, pacing, working, preparing. The metallic scent thickened as he approached the tarp. Cole reached for his phone, planning to record the scene, but paused. Instinct told him not to break the silence yet. Not until he knew what he was looking at. He lifted the tarp. Behind it sat a wooden workbench, surface stained with dark rings and faint chemical burns. Tools were arranged with meticulous precision. Pliers, clamps, cutting blades, rolls of electrical tape, a jar of something thick and amber-colored. But sitting dead center was something far worse. An old cassette recorder, the kind sold in the 90s, covered in fingerprints preserved by time and neglect. Cole leaned closer. A tape was still inside. His pulse hammered. He scanned the rest of the shelves. Faded Polaroids were stacked inside a shoebox. He reached for it with shaking hands. The photos inside were of landscapes, remote dirt roads, forest clearings, desert stretches, all marked with red grease pencil X's. None included people, none included Allison. But the intent behind the markings made the room shrink around him. Search points, dump sites, practice grounds? He didn't know. Not yet. He slid open a drawer beneath the bench. Inside were newspaper clippings, yellowed, brittle, smelling of attic rot. He thumbed through them, one by one, and with each headline his stomach twisted tighter. Nevada teen still missing. Oregon college student vanishes. Utah hiker disappears without trace. The dates ranged from 1996 to 2003. 7 disappearances, all unsolved. Cole exhaled slowly. This wasn't a storage unit. It was a shrine to vanished lives. He felt the room tilt. He reached for the cassette recorder, but before he touched it, his flashlight beam caught something in the far corner, a small metal lockbox half buried behind paint cans. He crouched, pulled it free, and flipped the latch. Inside was a single object, a car key, old, rusted, scratched, and attached to a brittle paper tag with handwriting faded to near nothing. He could barely make out the letters, but when they clicked into recognition, his breath left him in a rush. Hartley. Cole's throat tightened. It wasn't proof of guilt, not legally, but emotionally, psychologically, it was a sledgehammer. He stared at the key as if it were radiating heat. His hand trembled. 26 years had passed since that key vanished from Allison's ignition. 26 years since her life veered into darkness. Now it was sitting as a box in a storage unit leased by a ghost. He swallowed a curse, forcing his breathing steady. He needed to call this in, needed backup, needed evidence techs, needed a warrant for every property connected to anyone named Voss. But before he moved, he felt the weight of the moment settle on him. Thick, suffocating. This unit held the first real threads of truth in decades. He couldn't walk away until he understood its story. He pressed the recorder's play button. A click. A hiss of static. A low hum as the tape spooled to life. Then a voice, not a scream, not a struggle, but something far more chilling. A man humming. Slow. Tuneless. Aimless. The sound of someone passing time while doing something he shouldn't be doing. Cole's grip tightened until the recorder creaked. The humming continued for 12 seconds, then stopped. A scrape, a thud, something metal. Breathing, steady, practiced. Then the man spoke. Almost done now. Cole felt ice crawl up his spine. He forced himself to keep listening. More shifting, more breathing. Then another phrase. She didn't fight much. Silence, long, heavy. Then the tape ended mid-hum. Cole stood frozen, lungs refusing to move. The recorder felt too light in his hands, too small to contain words capable of cracking open a cold case that had suffocated an entire community. He set it down carefully, as if it were fragile, explosive material. His phone vibrated suddenly, slicing through the tension. He flinched hard. Caller ID, the forensics liaison. He answered with a shaky breath. We've narrowed the profile, the liaison said without preamble. The match is almost certainly paternal. That means Elias Voss is the prime candidate. Cole stared into the dark corner of the storage unit. Do we know if he's alive? He asked. A pause on the line, shuffling papers, then a quiet reply. We don't have a death record, and no trace after 2000. He could be anywhere. Cole looked at the car key again, at the Polaroids, at the clippings, at the tape recorder humming through his skull. He's not a ghost, Cole said. Ghosts don't leave keys behind. He stepped backward out of the unit, reaching for his radio. Evidence teams needed to lock this place down before the night swallowed anything else. But as he crossed into the parking lot, an unease dug into him, a feeling that something wasn't fitting together cleanly. The storage contract started in 2002, but Allison disappeared in 1998. If Elias had her key, he'd kept it with him for 4 years before hiding it here. Why the gap? Why store evidence of a crime instead of destroying it? Why leave a recorder with his voice behind? Serial offenders made trophies. but the silence around Elias was too clean, too absolute, like someone had scrubbed him from existence. The genealogist called minutes later, voice tight and fast. "We dug deeper. You're not going to like this." Cole leaned against his car, jaw clenched. "What?" "It's not just Elias missing from the record. Several Voss relatives drop off the map between 1998 and 2005. They stop showing up in tax files, property logs, medical systems, everything. But they aren't dead." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone hid them. Someone moved them. Someone erased them." Cole felt the atmosphere shift. His mind raced. If Elias wasn't acting alone, if the family moved like a network rather than individuals, then the case wasn't about one disappearance. It was about something larger, rooted in blood. He thought again about the Polaroids, the X's, the map-like precision, a hunting pattern. His phone buzzed again, the Oregon facility manager, voice trembling. "You should know something," the man said. "Those units, they only get cleaned when rent is overdue. But this one, someone paid in cash for 20 years. Same amount, same date. Never late, never early. Who paid?" No name, just envelopes dropped through the slot. Cole went silent. A cash stream. A hidden family. A man who vanished. Evidence scattered like breadcrumbs across 3 states. This wasn't a solitary predator. It was a lineage. He closed the storage unit, sealed it with evidence tape, and stepped into the cooling night air. The stars above looked sharp enough to cut. The wind whispered across the asphalt, carrying the same emptiness he'd sensed at the turnout 26 years ago. As he drove back toward Nevada, something gnawed at him. A truth forming in the shadows, not yet clear but undeniably dangerous. Elias Voss was out there. He had taken lives. He had buried his trail in darkness. But he hadn't buried it well enough. And as the highway stretched ahead in a long, unbroken ribbon, Cole realized the worst part. The case wasn't waking up after 26 years. It had never been asleep. The highway folded into the early dawn as Detective Cole crossed back into Nevada, the horizon bleeding from black into bruised purple. The road shimmered beneath him, endless and empty, like it had been waiting all night for someone to carry a truth heavy enough to crack the desert in half. He gripped the wheel until his knuckles whitened, replaying the tape's humming, the scraped words, the casual cruelty that had slithered through that recorder as if the speaker were discussing the weather instead of a life extinguished. The scent of industrial cleaner from the storage unit still clung to his nostrils, a toxin he couldn't escape. By the time he reached the sheriff's office, the building hummed with low tension. A few deputies glanced up as he entered, sensing the storm behind his eyes. He didn't speak to them. He didn't need to. The storage unit had shifted the case's center of gravity, pulled the investigation into a darker orbit. Evidence techs were already en route to Oregon. Analysts were reviewing the Polaroids. A warrant team was preparing background sweeps on every relative of the Voss family traced through the genealogical chart. But none of it felt fast enough. Cole headed straight for the cold case room, its narrow hallway echoing beneath flickering fluorescents. Inside, the old Hartley file lay open on the table like a living wound. Photos, maps, timelines, everything seemed sharper now, outlined with new malice. He stared at the photo of Allison leaning against her car, smiling softly, unaware of the monster orbiting her future. It made something twist inside him, an ache sharpened by decades of failure. He dropped the lockbox key on the table. It landed with a metallic clink that sliced through the silence. "It's hers," he murmured to himself. "It has to be." He leaned over the file, tracing the timeline from the night she vanished. The gap that haunted him, the 4-year void before the storage unit rental, suddenly felt like an intentional silence, a cooling period, a strategic pause, or maybe something worse, someone relocating, uprooting, changing their hunting ground. He thought of the desert X's on the Polaroids. 7 disappearances, 7 locations, spread across 3 states, too organized for coincidence, too wide for impulse. The pattern was deliberate. He rubbed his temple. How many victims are buried out there? He whispered, though the room refused to answer. A soft knock broke the tension. The genealogist, Lena Morris, slid into the doorway, clutching a stack of printouts. Her expression was pale, hollow in places where sleep should have been. "You look like hell," Cole told her. "So do you," she replied, stepping inside. "I've been digging into the Voss lineage all night, and the more I dig, the stranger it gets." Cole motioned for her to continue. "The family splintered in the late 90s. Records indicate relocations across Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. But the movement wasn't typical. No job changes, no housing applications, no forwarded mail. They just appeared somewhere new with no trail behind them. "Witness protection?" he asked. "No, that leaves digital fingerprints. This is cleaner. Too clean." Cole frowned. "Someone helping them? Maybe," she said. "But whoever did it didn't leave a signature." She spread the documents across the table. Birth certificates, marriage records, violations, arrests. But staring back at them was the unmistakable truth. The Voss family had been slipping through cracks for decades. Lena leaned in closer. "I found something else. Elias's last known sighting wasn't in 1999 like we thought. A witness in Humboldt County reported seeing him in 2001, working under the table at a body shop. Guess what else happened that year?" Cole flipped a page. Another disappearance. A 19-year-old woman, same age as Allison, same M.O., car left at a turnout. No signs of struggle. Cole inhaled sharply. Why wasn't that connected to him back then? Because no one knew who he was, Lena said. No fingerprints, no DNA, no address. He was a ghost long before the system knew to look. Cole's jaw clenched. Elias had lived in the shadows, hunting across state lines like a predator accustomed to darkness. But the familial DNA had cracked the silence open. Now the monster had a name. The sheriff entered without knocking, his expression carved from granite. Sheriff Wardle was a large man, broad-shouldered, old-school, stubborn as bedrock. He'd inherited the Hartley case years after it froze, and though he respected Cole's obsession, he had learned to temper hope with realism. "You need to hear this," he said, tossing a folder onto the table. "We pulled financial histories linked to the Voss family. None of them have bank accounts, not one, but someone's been sending cash to multiple P.O. boxes for 20 years. Cole opened the folder and felt his stomach twist. The amounts weren't large, but they were consistent. Monthly payments, spread across 4 states. Who's paying them? Cole asked. Wardle shook his head. We can't trace cash, but we know this. The payment stopped 3 months ago. Cole's eyes flicked upward. Why? We don't know. Wardle paused. But killers don't just stop paying their ghosts unless something changes. Lena added softly. What if Elias is dead? Cole stared at the key again. The tape recorder. The erased trails. A dead man couldn't hide this well. A dead man didn't pay for a storage unit for 20 years. A dead man didn't whisper into a recorder as if speaking to himself. He's alive, Cole said. Trust me. Wardle crossed his arms. Then where the hell is he? Cole didn't answer, because the real question that dug its teeth into him wasn't where Elias was now. It was where he had been hiding for 26 years. Hours later, evidence techs called from the Oregon unit. Cole answered immediately. We found something else, the tech said, voice unsteady. Behind the insulation panel on the back wall, hidden compartment. Cole's pulse spiked. What's inside? A long silence. Then, you need to get here, now. Cole closed his eyes briefly, then turned to Wardell. We're flying out. The flight felt endless, the world outside the cabin window sinking into a haze of muted colors. When they arrived, the air in Oregon was colder, denser, carrying the sharp sting of pine needles and rain-soaked dirt. The storage facility sat like a forgotten relic at the edge of town, its rows of metal doors glinting under the gray sky. The tech met them at the entrance, eyes wide. It's bad, he said simply. Cole stepped inside the unit again. The industrial cleaner smell still hung in the air, but something underneath it, the hidden compartment, reeked of age, dust, and dread. The tech led them behind the insulation panel, where a narrow cavity had been carved out between studs. Inside were 4 objects: a small metal box, a stack of audio cassettes, a rolled map, and a sealed plastic bag containing something pale, fibrous, unmistakable. Cole didn't breathe. The bag contained hair, long, brown, brittle with age. Wardell inhaled sharply. Jesus. The tech pointed to the metal box. You should open it. Cole's hands shook as he lifted the lid. Inside were IDs, 7 of them, driver's licenses, student cards, gym memberships, all belonging to young women, all missing persons from the clippings, and one more item beneath them, one that made Cole's vision blur for a moment. A thin silver bracelet engraved with a single letter, A. Allison Hartley's. The room felt suddenly too small, too cold, too alive with the presence of a man who wasn't there, but had left pieces of himself behind like the husks of past lives. Then Wardell unrolled the map. Red X's marked remote locations across Nevada, Oregon, and Idaho. Not 7 this time. 14. Cole stepped back as if struck. Heat flared in his chest. Anger, horror, determination sharpened like a blade. This wasn't a cold case anymore. This was a graveyard waiting to be unearthed. He stared at the map's clustered marks. One location sat farther from the rest, circled twice, as if Elias had returned to it, or lived near it, or wanted someone to find it. Wardell looked at Cole. That circle, what's there? Cole took one long breath. A place the desert swallowed, he said. A place no one checked in 1998. The tech swallowed. Should I call in local units? Cole shook his head slowly. No, he said. This one. I need to see myself. He folded the map, pocketed the bracelet, closed the metal box. As he stepped outside, the sky darkened unnaturally, clouds rolling across the sun like a curtain dropping over a stage. The wind hissed through the pines, as if warning him, as if whispering the name of a man who hadn't been seen in 26 years, but whose shadow was suddenly everywhere. Elias Voss, a ghost, a hunter. And somewhere out there, a man watching the world close in. The wind clawed at Cole's jacket as he stepped out of the Oregon facility, the sky above him a dark sheet pulsing with the threat of rain. He still felt the imprint of the silver bracelet in his palm, as if the metal had burned itself into his skin. Allison's initial, the small, delicate A, glimmered faintly whenever the clouds cracked open, just enough to let a thread of light fall through. He closed his fist around it, not willing to let it go. Not now, not ever. The evidence wasn't just proof. It was a pulse. A heartbeat reaching across decades, demanding justice with a voice sharper than any scream. Wardell trailed behind him, boots scraping across gravel. You sure about chasing that circled site alone? He asked, voice low, wary. Cole didn't look at him. You saw the map. You saw the pattern. Elias kept returning to that place, which makes it more dangerous. Wardell countered, stepping closer. You think a man who hides bodies across 3 states is going to leave a breadcrumb trail without a reason? Cole stared into the forest beyond the parking lot, the pines twisting like tall, silent witnesses. Sometimes predators get sloppy, or sentimental, or overconfident. Or they set traps? Cole finally met his eyes. Exactly. Wardell stiffened. You think the circle is bait? I think it's a message. Cole replied. And I think it's time we read it. That shut Wardell up, but only for a moment. Then I'm coming with you. Cole shook his head. You need to coordinate the grid searches at the other marked sites. We might have 14 victims. Maybe more. We don't get second chances with ground this old. Wardell's face tightened, but he knew Cole was right. And Cole knew Wardell hated knowing it. You radio me every hour, Wardell said finally. If you miss one check-in, I send in a squad. Fine. And Cole? What? Wardell held his stare. Don't go in blind. Cole didn't answer, because the truth sat heavy in his chest. This entire case had been blind from day one. Every step forward felt like navigating a shadow that kept shifting, taunting, leading them closer not to closure, but confrontation. Hours later, Cole was back on the road, driving through a corridor of towering pines that swallowed the late afternoon light. The map lay open on the passenger seat, fluttering with each gust of wind sneaking through the cracked window. The circled location glowed like an omen. Northwest Nevada, near the Black Rock region. Remote. Harsh. Forgotten. A place where the desert didn't just hide things, it buried them. As he drove, the world unfurled with eerie déjà vu. The long, empty stretches, the pale horizon trembling under the heat. The same silence he felt the night he first visited Allison's abandoned car in '98. Time folded on itself, pulling him backward and forward until the years blurred into a single jagged line. His radio crackled. Lena's voice spilled out, tired but sharp. "Cole, you on the road?" Already halfway to the Black Rock. "You should know something," she said. "I've been cross-referencing the map with satellite imagery from the early 2000s. The circled location, there used to be a structure there." "What kind of structure?" "A cabin. It was demolished around 2000. Cole gripped the steering wheel harder. "Ownership. None recorded." "None?" "Not legally. No. But get this. Utility logs show low-level power usage until the day it was demolished. Someone lived there. Someone stayed off the grid just well enough to slip past inspections." Cole felt a cold line trace down his spine. "Elias." "Most likely. Who took down the cabin?" "County orders," Lena replied. "They said it was abandoned." Cole gave a humorless laugh. "Not abandoned. Vacated." "And whoever vacated," Lena said softly, "did so right around the time the Voss family stopped receiving their cash payments." Cole's heart thudded once. Hard. "He changed patterns. Moved again. That's what I'm thinking. And there's more. You'll want to be careful. That land hasn't been touched in nearly 20 years. No hikers, no campers. Nothing. Perfect place for a graveyard," Cole muttered. Lena hesitated. Perfect place for someone to go back to. They disconnected, leaving the static to dissolve into the hum of the engine. Dusk bled into night as Cole reached the desert edge de Camar. He pulled off the highway, following a dirt track barely visible beneath shifting sand. The tires crunched, echoing in the open air like brittle bones. The desert lay sprawled before him, vast, lonely, ancient. A world that knew how to keep secrets. He parked beside a cluster of boulders, the map trembling in his hand as he matched the terrain to the marked coordinates. The circled site sat less than a mile away. Close enough to walk. Close enough for the darkness to swallow him if he wasn't careful. He pocketed a flashlight, a gun, and Allison's bracelet. The desert seemed to inhale as he stepped onto its surface. Sand whispered beneath his boots, each footfall sending tiny ripples through the quiet. A thin sliver of moon hung overhead, sharp and distant. The air was dry, brittle, holding on to the heat of the day like a fading memory. The closer he walked, the more the atmosphere shifted. It felt denser, heavier, as if he had crossed into a space where the desert itself remembered. Then he saw it. What remained of the cabin? A rectangle of cracked foundation, half buried under sand. Splintered beams jutting from the ground like broken ribs. A rusted metal door lying crooked in the dust. All of it abandoned to time, yet the site hummed with a magnetic pull. A whisper threading through the dark that told Cole this place had mattered. He swept his flashlight over the ruins, and then he saw the footprints. Fresh? Not even a day old. Cole crouched, heart hammering. The prints were deep, wide, unmistakably human. Not wind-scraped, not animal-distorted. Someone had been here recently. Someone heavy, someone moving with purpose. He followed them, breath unsteady, the beam of his flashlight carving a narrow tunnel through the dark. The prints led behind the foundation, toward a cluster of jagged rocks forming a natural alcove. Cole slowed. The hair on the back of his neck lifted. He stepped into the alcove, light sweeping across the stone, and stopped dead. Carved into the rock was a symbol, a circle, and inside it, an X, identical to the ones on the Polaroids, bold, deliberate, a marker, a signpost for something buried beneath. He crouched, brushing sand aside with trembling fingers. The ground felt wrong, too soft in places, too uneven. His mind flashed back to the missing women, to Allison's empty car, to the map with 14 red X's. He swallowed hard. He pressed his palm against the earth. Cold. Cole reached for his folding shovel, hands shaking but determined. He dug, each scrape of metal against dirt, a shudder through his bones. Sweat slid down his spine despite the cold desert air. Sand poured aside in steady, silent waves. Then the shovel hit something solid. Cole froze. He knelt, brushing dust away with bare hands, breath quick, ragged. He expected a stone, a board, a container, but what emerged was none of those. It was the corner of a metal drum, old, rusted, buried deep. A second drum sat beside it, and a third. Cole's vision blurred, rage and horror colliding inside him. This wasn't a hunting ground, it was a storage site, a collection. He dug until his hands burned, until the drum tops were fully exposed. He pressed an ear to the metal, knowing he wouldn't hear anything, yet listening anyway. Listening for the ghost of something long gone. Silence answered. He gripped the lid and pried it open with a grunt. The smell hit him like a blow, though it wasn't rot, not after so many years. It was chemical, preserved, cold. Inside lay fabric, bone fragments, something that once held shape, now collapsed under time's weight. A necklace clung to the debris, a small metal charm. Cole's heart cracked. A letter. T. Another missing girl, another life erased. He snapped the lid shut, breath shuddering. His hands shook uncontrollably. The desert felt suddenly alive around him, the silence no longer emptiness, but a roar pressing against his skull. He grabbed his radio, but before he spoke, he felt it. A presence, watching, not close enough to see, not far enough to ignore. His flashlight swept across the darkness behind him, and for one impossible second, a shape. Tall, still, human, half hidden behind a rock ridge, then gone. Cole spun, gun drawn, heart pounding like a drum. Nothing. No footsteps, no sound, no trace, but the feeling lingered, heavy as a hand on his shoulder. Someone had been here. Someone still was. Elias Voss, alive, and closer than Cole had ever imagined. The desert held its breath as Cole stood frozen beside the unearthed drum, gun raised, eyes scanning the darkness for the shape that had slipped away. The silence was so complete it felt pressurized, as if the air itself was holding him in place, forcing him to listen, to feel, the weight of someone else's presence lingering just beyond the reach of his flashlight. His pulse pounded in his ears, each beat counting the seconds between now and whatever would come next. He steadied his breathing, forcing the tremor from his hand. He had seen someone, a silhouette too tall and too still to be anything but human. Not imagination, not desert mirage. Somewhere out there, in the maze of rock and shadow, Elias Voss was watching him. Cole scanned the ridge again, but the desert had already swallowed the figure whole. No movement, no shifting sand, no crunch of gravel, not even a breeze. It was as if the world had locked into a moment of absolute stillness, waiting for him to make the next move. He backed away from the drums, slow and deliberate, keeping his gun trained on the direction the figure had vanished. His voice, when he raised the radio to his lips, was a controlled rasp. "This is Cole. I need units. Immediate. Sector Delta Black Rock perimeter. Coordinates." Static swallowed the transmission. He froze. He tried again. "Dispatch, do you copy? I need—" More static. A hiss that crawled under his skin. The signal here was weak, but not this weak. Not dead. Not completely drowned. It felt wrong. Interference didn't feel natural. If Elias had lived out here, he would know where signals dropped, where voices couldn't carry, where help could not reach. Cole lowered the radio slowly, every nerve in his body screaming. He pivoted, keeping his gun up, scanning the dark horizon. The moon dipped behind a cloud, robbing him of what little light he had. For a moment, he felt completely blind. His instincts screamed at him to leave, to get back to the vehicle, to regroup. But another instinct, the one carved into him by decades of chasing ghosts, anchored his feet. He wasn't finished here, not while the ground beneath him still hid more stories. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and angled it into the alcove again. He forced himself back to the drums, past the pounding in his chest. The second drum was smaller, dented along one edge. He dug his fingers under the lid and pried it off with a groan of rusted metal. Inside, wrapped in canvas, something long and rigid sat entombed. He dragged it into the moonlight, pulse thrumming. It wasn't bone, it wasn't cloth, it was wood, splintered at the ends. He unwrapped more of the canvas. A crutch, old, metal-tipped, child-sized. His breath caught. The third drum suddenly loomed like a nightmare beside him, its silhouette trembling in the corner of his vision. He dug around it with frantic hands, sand packed tight from time and weight. It took minutes, agonizing, breathless minutes, before he freed the lid enough to wrench it open. This one held nothing but earth. Soil, packed deep, darker than the surrounding sand. At first glance, it looked empty. Then his hand brushed something hard beneath the surface. A tooth, just one. Small, smooth, milk-white, a child's. Cole stumbled back a step. His throat tightened painfully, a pressure that crawled from his chest into his skull. This wasn't just a gravesite. It was a collection. A museum of lives erased. And Elias had been here, recently. He turned toward the ridge again, searching for the shadow that had watched him. Nothing. But the feeling didn't fade. It deepened. A weight behind him. A presence pressing into the edges of the air. He moved deliberately toward the foundation of the old cabin, scanning for any sign of return tracks, any clue that someone had passed through again. And then he saw it, scraped into the foundation's crumbling concrete, as if carved with a knife not long ago. Not done. The words gouged deep, sharp and uneven, slicing through decades of dust. Cole's breath hitched. This wasn't just a taunt. It was a promise. He stepped back instinctively, but the sand beneath his boot dipped. The ground shifted. For a heartbeat he lost balance, the earth sinking under him like something hollow was giving way. He recovered quickly, dropping to one knee and sweeping the flashlight over the spot. A wooden hatch lay buried under a thin layer of sand, hidden, but only barely. The air around him thickened. His skin prickled. Every survival instinct screamed at him to stop, to leave, to run. But he grasped the edges of the hatch anyway and pulled. The hinges groaned, coughing up air stale enough to make his stomach tighten. A narrow shaft stretched downward. A ladder disappeared into darkness. The smell was thick, old, metallic. He swallowed the bile rising in his throat. One step, then another. He descended the ladder, the hatch closing above him, sealing him in a coffin of silence. His boots touched dirt. The flashlight shook in his hand as he swept the beam across the underground room. The sight rooted him to the floor. A bunker, small, reinforced, carved with meticulous care. The walls were lined with shelves, hundreds of them, filled with notebooks, tapes, jars containing soil samples, bundles of cloth tied with twine, labeled and dated. A catalogue of lives, a system, a mind organized around unspeakable rituals. In the back corner, a single chair faced an audio recorder identical to the one in the storage unit. A fresh cassette sat inside. Cole approached slowly. When he pressed the play button, the tape hissed to life. Then a voice filled the bunker, soft, calm, horribly familiar. "You shouldn't be here." Cole's blood chilled. The voice wasn't on tape. It was coming from behind him. He spun, gun raised, heart exploding against his ribs. A figure stood at the bottom of the ladder. Tall, gaunt, shoulders slightly hunched, hair grey at the edges, face half hidden by shadows, eyes sharp and unblinking. Elias Voss. Alive. He said nothing at first, just watched Cole with the calm of a man observing an insect caught in a jar. Cole steadied his gun. "Hands where I can see them." Elias didn't move. His mouth twitched. Not a smile. Not yet. Just the ghost of one. "You've been digging," he said softly. His voice was strangely quiet, almost intimate. You dug up what should have stayed buried. Put your hands up! Cole barked, but Elias only tilted his head, studying Cole with clinical curiosity. You came alone. That was foolish. I said hands up. Elias lifted them slowly, but not in surrender. More like he was stretching, testing the air, testing the moment, testing Cole's resolve. You took her, Cole said, voice shaking with fury. Allison Hartley. And others. 14, maybe more. Elias's eyes glinted. Names blur when you keep so many. Cole's stomach turned. Why her? Why any of them? Elias let out a slow breath. Quiet places attract quiet people. And quiet people disappear better. Cole tightened his grip. You're done running. Elias's gaze flicked toward the hatch above. You think I ran? Cole hesitated. Elias stepped closer, and Cole raised the gun tighter to center mass. That's far enough. Elias stopped 3 feet away. You think you found my graveyard, he murmured, but you haven't found the field. Cole's voice cracked. What field? Elias's eyes narrowed with a hint of amusement. You'll know soon enough. And then his hand moved. Fast. Too fast. Cole fired. The shot exploded in the confined space, deafening, sending dust raining from the ceiling. Elias staggered, not from a hit, but from the shockwave, then lunged sideways behind a shelf. Cole fired again, wood splintering, jars shattering. Elias vanished deeper into the bunker's shadows. Cole ducked behind the chair, breath ragged, entire body shaking. He could hear Elias moving, boots scraping dirt, breath steady, focused. Hunting. Cole whispered into the radio, even though he knew it wouldn't connect. Officer needs assistance. Armed suspect. Underground. Coordinates. Static swallowed him whole. Then Elias's voice floated out of the dark. You came into my home. A clatter of jars on the floor. You dug where you shouldn't. A footstep behind Cole. Close. You've only seen the beginning? Cole spun, gun raised. The bunker went black. Elias had hit the breaker. Darkness swallowed everything. And in that darkness, Cole heard the unmistakable sound of someone breathing softly. Right behind him. The darkness inside the bunker throbbed like a living thing, swallowing the last trembling echoes of the gunshots. Cole stood with his back against cold concrete, gun raised, chest heaving. But the black around him was absolute. Thick, suffocating, impenetrable. He couldn't see his hand in front of his face, couldn't see the ladder, couldn't see the shelves or the jars or the chair where he'd first heard the voice. But he could hear Elias. That breathing, slow, measured, close enough to feel against the back of his neck. Cole spun toward the sound, firing once. The muzzle flash carved a split-second slice through the darkness, revealing shapes in a violent strobe. Shelves, debris, flicking shadows. But no body. The bullet slammed into wood, sending splinters across the floor. Then silence again. Cole's heart hammered hard enough that it echoed in his ears. He pressed every sense outward, straining for the faintest movement. His flashlight lay somewhere on the dirt, kicked aside when he fired, but he couldn't risk bending down to find it. Not in this darkness. Not with a predator somewhere in the shadows. A whisper slid across the room like a blade. You fired too quickly, Detective. Cole whipped the gun toward the voice. Nothing. Another whisper, this time from his left. You panic too easily. Cole pivoted, pulse spiking. His fingers trembled around the grip. Elias, it's over, he forced out. You're cornered. A low chuckle crawled up from the dark. You came into a room I carved with my own hands. You think you're the hunter. Cole clenched his jaw. Hands up, now! Metal scraped the wall somewhere behind him. Cole aimed, ready to fire. But then another sound snapped through the dark. A soft click. Cole froze. A recorder turning on. The room filled with a hiss of static. Then Elias's voice, recorded long ago, floated up from the machine. She didn't scream at first. Cole's stomach tightened, his finger curled on the trigger. Another whisper, this time inches from his right ear. They rarely do. Cole swung blindly and fired. The flash illuminated a sliver of the bunker, and in that fraction of a second, he saw Elias's face. Pale, hollow, eyes gleaming with something ancient and cold. Then the darkness swallowed him again. Cole backed toward where he remembered the ladder being, one step at a time, gun shaking dangerously. A jar shattered behind him. Another whisper. "You found one of my gardens." Cole's pulse stuttered. "Gardens?" The voice drifted behind him, then beside him, then above him, everywhere and nowhere. "The drums," Elias murmured. "Seeds of memory, planted across states so no one would trace the pattern. But you..." His tone coiled with amusement. "You dug too deep." Cole's hand brushed the ladder. Cold metal grounded him, anchoring him to something real, something solid. He grabbed a rung. Then his wrist was snatched. A hand, bone-thin but iron-strong, closed around him in the dark. Cole grunted, nearly losing his grip on the gun. He swung the weapon wildly, striking something soft. Elias hissed, releasing him just long enough for Cole to scramble up the first rungs. His boot slipped on sand-coated metal, but he pulled himself up, climbing blind, desperate. Below him, the darkness shifted. Something slammed into the ladder. Cole's foot slid off a rung. He caught himself with both hands, elbows screaming. Beneath him, Elias's voice echoed. "You think you can climb your way out?" Cole didn't answer, didn't breathe. He hauled himself upward, muscles burning, gun clutched tight. Every second felt borrowed. Another impact rattled the ladder. Cole pushed harder. Then something cold wrapped around his ankle. A hand. He kicked violently, heel slamming into bone. Elias grunted and tightened his grip. Cole kicked again, harder, feeling something give. The grip loosened just enough for Cole to yank his leg free and leap upward. His hand found the edge of the hatch. He heaved himself through just as a hand shot upward, fingertips grazing the air inches from his boot. Cole rolled onto the sand, chest heaving, gun up, ready for Elias to follow. But the darkness below stayed still. Then softly, echoing from the bunker, "You can climb out, detective, but you won't leave the desert." Cole backed away from the hatch, reached for a boulder, and shoved it over the opening. The stone slammed down with a dull, final thud, sealing the darkness below. Silence stretched across the desert. Cold air bit the sweat on his skin. His radio crackled weakly. He grabbed it, voice raw. "This is Cole. Dispatch, do you copy?" Static. Then, "Oh, Cole, repeat." He exhaled a shudder of relief. "Officer in need of assistance. Armed suspect on scene. Underground bunker. I've got multiple remains. I need units. Now." The static thinned. "Copy. Sending units." Cole lowered the radio, breath shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. His vision wavered. The drums, the tooth, the crutch, the hatch. Everything blurred into a single nightmare. And somewhere beneath him, separated only by sand and stone, Elias Voss was waiting. Watching. Breathing. Cole pushed himself to his feet. He couldn't stay here. He swept the desert with his flashlight. Slow, deliberate, methodical. The horizon stretched empty. But the tracks he'd seen earlier, the fresh ones, pointed not toward the bunker, but away from it. Toward the ridgeline where he'd seen the silhouette. Meaning Elias had been outside before entering the hatch. Meaning he hadn't been living down there. Meaning he still had escape routes Cole didn't know. Cole moved quickly, careful but urgent, following the tracks across the sand. They cut a serpentine path through the rocks, weaving between dark shapes that rose like ancient monuments. Half a mile in, something caught the edge of his beam. A campsite, old but not abandoned. A tarp slung between two rocks. Empty water jugs. A fire pit surrounded by footprints. A blanket folded with unsettling neatness. A message etched into the rock with charcoal. "You were too slow then. You are too slow now." Cole swallowed hard. The fire pit's ashes were still warm. He scanned the ground. 2 sets of tracks now. One heavy, one lighter. Smaller, fresh, recent. Someone else had been here. Someone with Elias. Cole followed the smaller tracks. They led toward a narrow canyon. The desert wind moaned through the gap, like a whisper trapped between stone walls. He entered. The canyon swallowed him. The flashlight beam jittered along the stone as he moved deeper, heart pounding with every echoing footstep. The air felt colder here. Thinner. The walls pressed inward like they were listening. Then the tracks stopped, abruptly. In the center of the canyon floor, Cole crouched. The sand around the tracks was disturbed, not by feet, but by something dragged, something heavy, something unwilling. A low hum drifted across the canyon. Cole stood sharply. A tape recorder sat on a rock, waiting for him, a single note pinned beneath it. Press play. His throat tightened. He shouldn't. He knew he shouldn't, but he did. The tape clicked. Elias's voice slithered out, soft and steady. "You're chasing shadows, detective. But I don't want shadows anymore." Cole's pulse quickened. "I want an audience." Cole glanced around the canyon. Empty, silent, breathless. "I want you to witness the next bloom in my garden." Then another voice cut in. Small, trembling. A girl's voice. "Please, someone, help me." Cole froze. The tape ended. The desert exhaled. And in the distance, faint but unmistakable, a scream. The scream tore through the canyon like a blade, slicing the air so sharply that Cole felt it in his bones before his brain could register the sound. It echoed off the stone walls, distorted, multiplied, turning into a chorus of terror that bounced toward him from every direction. For one blistering second, his body froze. Then instincts detonated. He sprinted. Sand exploded under his boots as he charged deeper into the canyon, flashlight jerking wildly across the jagged walls, breath slamming in and out of his chest. Another scream rose, shorter, choked off halfway, like someone's voice was gripped by an unseen hand. The canyon curved sharply, funneling him into a narrow throat of rock. Everything tightened. The air, the silence, his pulse. He reached the bend, skidded around it, and the world opened into a hollow, a natural amphitheater carved by centuries of wind and time, hidden entirely from sight unless you knew exactly where to enter. The moon cast a hard silver glow across the clearing, and in that light Cole saw movement, small, frantic, struggling. A figure, a girl, hands bound, mouth gagged, drag marks in the sand behind her, as if she had been pulled here, desperate, clawing for escape. Her wide eyes found Cole instantly, swelling with terror and hope all at once. She tried to scream again, but the gag crushed her voice into muffled sobs. Cole lunged toward her, but the second he stepped into the clearing, a voice bled down from the rocks above, calm and satisfied. "Careful, detective." Cole spun, gun raised, body electrified. Elias stood on a ledge 10 feet above the clearing, framed against the moonlight like a silhouette cut from the stone itself. His expression was unreadable, his posture relaxed, his hands resting lightly at his sides. Unarmed, yet radiating the unmistakable presence of a predator who believed the world belonged to him. Cole aimed the gun squarely at his chest. "Get down here, now!" Elias didn't move. "You're louder than I expected. Most men get quieter when they see their failures staring back at them." "Get off the rocks!" Cole barked. Elias lifted one finger in a gesture of soft reprimand. "If I take one step down, you'll forget about her." He gestured lazily toward the girl. "And that would be impolite." Cole shifted, positioning himself between Elias and the girl, gun unwavering. "Let her go." Elias tilted his head, touching him. "You don't even know her name." "I don't need to. Names matter," Elias said calmly. "Without them, they're just shapes that fade." His eyes glinted. "Like Allison." Cold rage ignited inside Cole's chest. "You don't get to say her name," Elias smirked. "But I remember it better than you. I remember everything." He tapped his temple. "Every face, every breath, every quiet moment before the world stops moving." Cole felt the canyon walls inch closer. "Let the girl go." "She came to me," Elias said. "Not willingly, of course, but destiny isn't always gentle." Cole took a slow step forward, adjusting his aim. "Last warning." Elias spread his arms theatrically. "Shoot then. End the hunt. You've wanted that since the moment you found the first drum." A whisper of wind curled through the clearing. Cole exhaled, then fired. The shot cracked like lightning, echoing through the hollow, and hit the rock behind Elias. He'd moved, not jumped, not ducked, but stepped aside with uncanny speed, slipping into shadow like someone who had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. Cole fired again, but the bullet shattered harmlessly against stone. Elias's voice drifted like smoke. "You're chasing light with darkness behind you." Cole spun, too late. A shape lunged from behind a boulder. Not Elias, someone smaller. A second figure slammed into Cole's legs, knocking him sideways, sending his gun flying across the sand. He rolled hard, grit scraping his palms, vision blurring as a teenage boy, wild-eyed, filthy, face streaked with dust, scrambled toward him with an animalistic hiss. Cole reacted instantly, kicking out, catching the boy in the ribs. The teen snarled, launching himself forward again, fingers clawing at Cole's throat. Cole slammed an elbow into his jaw, twisting, fighting for leverage. The boy was strong, feral, driven by something deeper than fear. "Stop!" Cole barked, but the boy didn't stop. Didn't hear, didn't think. Above them, Elias laughed, the sound silk smooth and cruel. "Children grow into the soil they're raised in," he mused. "And mine, mine grow beautifully." Cole managed to get an arm around the boy's neck, holding tight enough to subdue, but not kill. "Kid, listen, I'm not here to hurt you." The boy bit his arm, hard. Cole hissed in pain, shoving him aside and scrambling to his feet, searching frantically for his gun. The canyon floor swallowed it somewhere in the dunes of disturbed sand. The girl on the ground whimpered, kicking helplessly. Elias stepped into the full glow of the moon, hands clasped behind his back like a professor about to give a lecture. "He's not mine by blood," Elias said conversationally, "but by purpose. Every garden needs a caretaker. Every legacy needs hands that will outlive its maker." Cole lunged toward the girl, cutting through the sand, determined to pull her behind cover. But the boy slammed into him again, this time from the side, sending both of them crashing into the canyon wall. Pain shot up Cole's spine. His vision flashed white. Elias's voice descended like a verdict. "You're tired, detective. Slower. Rusted with time." Cole shoved the boy back, hard enough to knock him to the ground. The kid scrambled up, panting, ready to attack again, but then froze. A beam of white light cut across the canyon wall. Headlights. Engines. Cole jerked his head toward the canyon entrance. Multiple vehicles. Tires grinding against stone. Radio static snapping through loudspeakers. Sheriff Wardle's voice bellowing, "Voss, this is law enforcement. Step away from the rocks. Hands where we can see them." Elias didn't flinch. Cole's pulse surged as deputies poured into the hollow, weapons raised, flashlights burning across the stone. The boy went still, terror flickering across his face for the first time. Wardle's voice thundered again. "Step down, Elias. Do it now!" Elias inhaled deeply, letting the air fill him like he was savoring the arrival of an audience. Then he smiled. "I told you," he said softly to Cole. "I wanted witnesses." He stepped backward toward the cliff's edge. "Stop!" Cole shouted. But Elias didn't stop. He raised one hand in a slow wave, then fell. Not stumbled, not slipped. Fell, willingly, backward into the darkness behind the ledge, swallowed by the canyon's shadow so completely it was as if the earth opened and claimed him. Cole ran, scaling the rock wall with raw adrenaline, reaching the ledge and looking over. Nothing. No body, no movement, no sound of impact. Just a black void yawning beneath the cliffs. Deputies swarmed the rocks. Flashlights stabbed through the darkness, illuminating nothing but gravel and emptiness. Wardle reached the ledge, breath heaving. "Where is he? Where the hell?" Cole stared into the dark. "He planned this. There's an exit, a tunnel, a chute, something." "He jumped, Cole." "No." Cole's voice was a rasp. "He escaped." Wardle looked at him hard, then signaled for search teams to fan out. Deputies secured the girl, tears streaking her dirt-caked face. As medics rushed in, the feral boy was pulled down by 2 officers, thrashing and screaming, breath hitching with panic. The canyon transformed into a blaze of lights, radios, shouting, footsteps. But Cole saw none of it. He watched the darkness below the ledge, heart pounding with a sickening certainty. Elias wasn't dead. He wasn't gone. And as Cole backed away from the cliff's edge, something caught his eye, etched into the rock, fresh and deliberate. A small circle, with an X inside. A mark left seconds before he jumped. A promise. A message meant only for him. Not finished. The canyon wind rose, curling around Cole's shoulders like a whisper. And somewhere in the labyrinth beneath the desert skin, Elias Voss breathed. The searchlight sliced the canyon darkness into frantic, trembling pieces, but none of them revealed a body. Deputies rappelled down the cliff, boots scraping the stone, flashlights darting through crevices like nervous insects. Every crevice, every shadowed ledge, every crack in the canyon wall was illuminated, searched, shouted into. Nothing. Not a whisper of movement, not a drop of blood. Elias Voss had fallen from a height that would shatter bone, and yet he was gone as if the canyon floor had swallowed him whole. Cole remained on the ridge, staring into the void where Elias had disappeared, the night wind clawing at his face. Sweat stung his eyes, dust clung to each breath, but beneath all of it pulsed a deep, furious certainty. The man had not died. Not tonight, not here. Wardle climbed up beside him, breath heavy, face drawn tight with disbelief and exhaustion. We've covered the entire base. Nothing. Not even foot to sole for footprints. There's a tunnel. Cole murmured, voice low, the words scraping from his throat like stone. He didn't jump to die. He jumped to vanish. Wardle looked again over the ledge. We didn't see any caves, because you're looking for what's obvious. Cole lifted his flashlight, angling it across the opposite wall. Elias doesn't use doors. He uses holes, cracks, areas carved out long before we knew they existed. You think he mapped this place? I think he lived in it. The sheriff rubbed a calloused hand across his jaw. We'll need a full geological team. We need dogs, heat sensors, ground-penetrating radar. We need a miracle, Wardell muttered. The canyon responded with silence, thick, ominous, as if it were listening. Down below, deputies moved the rescued girl toward the medics. Cole watched her, her small frame trembling violently under the emergency blanket. Dirt streaked her cheeks, dried blood crusted along her temple. But her eyes were the worst part. Vacant, darkened by fear that went beyond anything she could say. Cole descended the ridge and approached her carefully. A medic stepped aside as Cole crouched down. It's okay, he murmured, though he wasn't sure it was true. You're safe now. Her gaze flicked toward him, shaky, uncertain, but present. Cole softened his voice. What's your name? She worked her jaw under the loosened gag. Swallowed. When she spoke, her words were barely more than air. Mara. Cole nodded. How old are you, Mara? 15, she whispered. Something twisted hot and sharp in Cole's chest. Did he hurt you? Galahad. She hesitated, then shook her head slowly. Not yet. The word yet hit Cole like a hammer. Did he take you from your home? Another shake. Cole's brow furrowed. Then from where? Her gaze drifted toward the canyon entrance. He found me. By the road. Her voice trembled. He told me I was lost. Cole swallowed hard. Did you see anyone else? Anyone helping him? Mara blinked, a flicker of terror spreading across her face. The boy. That boy isn't with him. Cole said gently. He's not hurting you anymore. But Mara shook her head harder now, fear rising like a tide behind her eyes. No, not him. Her voice quivered. Another boy. Cole's breath caught. Describe him. Mara closed her eyes briefly, as if recalling something she wished she could erase. He didn't talk. He just stared. His eyes were wrong. She shuddered. Elias called him the apprentice. Cole stilled. Wardle stepped closer. The kid we found isn't the apprentice. No, Mara whispered. He said the other one. He said the apprentice was ready. Ready. Cole felt that word burrow into his spine. Ready for what? Cole asked. But Mara broke down before she could speak. Her breath hitched, shoulders shaking with sobs she no longer tried to swallow. Get her to the hospital, Cole said quietly. As the medics loaded her, Cole turned to the deputies securing the teenage boy. The kid wasn't feral anymore, just terrified, hollow-faced, confused. He looked nothing like a capable helper, nothing like a second-generation monster, just a boy caught in a nightmare, which meant the real apprentice was still out there. Minutes later, Wardell walked up, expression grim. Team's found something. Cole tightened. Where? Follow me. They crossed the canyon clearing, weaving through officers and equipment until they reached a narrow split in the rock wall, a crack barely 2 feet wide. Enough for a person to slip through sideways, enough for someone lean and practiced to vanish before lights arrived. Wardell pointed his flashlight inside. Found these just a few feet in. 2 items lay on the ground, a length of rope and a hiking boot heel with fresh, clean wear. Cole crouched, picking it up. Dirt scraped the bottom, but the heel was practically new. Wardell crossed his arms. Looks like he prepared this route ahead of time. He didn't prepare it, Cole said, standing. He rehearsed it. They both stared into the dark slit, cold air drifting out in a slow breath that carried a faint scent of dust and something metallic. Wardell exhaled. We'll send a team in. No. Cole said immediately. We need to find where it ends before we send anyone. Wardell raised an eyebrow. You think it's trapped? I think Elias Voss doesn't dig tunnels as exits. He digs them as routes. And routes lead somewhere. Wardell nodded reluctantly. I'll get mapping teams started. Cole moved toward the edge of the clearing again, scanning the canyon walls. The symbol Elias carved near the ledge replayed in his mind. Circle. X. Fresh enough that the stone had barely settled. A signature. A ritual. A final taunt. Not finished. And the more Cole replayed the events of the night, the more something felt off. Elias never panicked, never flailed, never showed fear. Every move had been controlled, even the fall, especially the fall. Cole turned slowly toward Wardell. He staged it. Wardell frowned. Staged what? The escape, the jump, the confrontation, all of it. Cole's heartbeat quickened. He wanted us to find the girl. He wanted us to find the drums. He wanted us to find the boy. And why the hell would he want that? Cole stared into the crack in the rock, feeling the truth assemble like an iron puzzle inside his mind. Because he's not running. Cole whispered. He's relocating. Wardell stiffened. Relocating where? To wherever the apprentice is. Cole said. He's passing the torch. The wind shifted sharply, stirring sand across Cole's boots. Wardell swore under his breath. We need to track every abandoned property within 50 miles. Every cabin, every storage unit, every cave. And Cole, Wardell's voice dropped. Yes, we might not be looking for one man now. Cole understood instantly. A mentor, a successor, a lineage of violence, a garden with new hands tending it. He swallowed hard, staring at the crack Elias had vanished into, the darkness inside alive with possibility and dread. Then we find them both, Cole said, before he finishes what he started. But the desert didn't answer. It simply breathed. And somewhere beneath its ancient skin, through miles of unseen caverns and winding tunnels, Elias Voss continued moving, slow, methodical,